Hey y'all! The Texan in me just came out. Sorry. Today I have my January wrap up, and in the month of January I read a crazy amount, and the only excuse that I have is I really did not watch TV. I only watched like 5 hours of TV and that's it. The rest of the time was just reading. I did go ahead and read 23 books and 4 novellas. So I'm going to go ahead and go through them kind of quickly. I'm not going to give too much of an in-depth information on them because I don't want this to become like a 3-part video like the way it was for my December wrap up. So if you guys have any questions about any of the books that I mentioned, you can leave it in the comments down below. Or you can also let me know if you guys want a book review for any of the books that I mentioned. And by all means, I'll go ahead and do that for you guys as well. So let me go ahead and get right into it. Descendant by Lesley Livingston. This is book 2 in the Starling series. I enjoyed it a lot. I like the action. I like the whole mix of more mythology. And I did go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 stars. Worth the Fight by the Keeland. This is book 1 in the MMA Fighter series. This is a recommendation and I decided to go ahead and read it right away. Worth the Fight follows Nico and Ellie. Nico is a famous MMA fighter who is having trouble getting back into the cage, and Ellie is a lawyer who looks great on paper but doesn't really have everything put together in real life. I love this story. I love the roller coaster that it takes you on, the heartache, the growth, the redemption. I was so invested with these characters. I fell in love with them. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. The Sea of Tranquility by Katja, Millay. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but this was one of the January choices for my book club. It follows Nastya, I think I'm saying that right, and Josh. They both have very dark pasts, and they're both broken in their own way and basically trying to grow and to be happy, basically. I love the story. I was so emotionally invested with them, and I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. Only Between Us by Mila Ferrera. This is a story that follows Romy and Caleb. Romy is trying to move on after getting out of an abusive relationship, and Caleb is living a life that he wouldn't want anybody else to have to go through. I feel like every time I was catching my breath with this story, like something else would happen when I would turn the page and I would be like losing my breath again. I really enjoyed it. I went ahead and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Altered by Jennifer Rush. This was the second choice for my January book club, and Altered has a great storyline. There's action, betrayal, there's love, and like smoking hot alphas. What more can you want out of a story? I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. Forged by Jennifer Rush. This is the novella that takes place before Altered. It gives us some insight into Danny O'Brien. If you have not read Altered, I'm not going to ruin anything about it, but I did like the information it gave. I did go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 stars. Erased by Jennifer Rush. This is book 2, and this story was amazing. I was afraid that it was going to suffer second book syndrome, but it didn't. It had the same action-packed, suspenseful romance or dash of romance that you're used to that you got out of Altered, so I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I went ahead and read was The Token by Marata Eros. I was asked by the author herself to go ahead and read this story, and I could not say no. I love her writing. I love a terrible love. I love that story a lot, so I was super excited when she asked me to read The Token. And The Token is about Farron and her journey with dealing with a dark past and an opaque future. There's a lot of tough decisions that she has to kind of go ahead and go through. The Token is going to be broken up in different sections in ebook. So the first, or the Token, this portion that I read is like chapter 1 through like 12. She's going to be releasing one every month, and it should be 6 combined when it's finished. But with this one, it does leave off in a huge cliffhanger, which kind of makes sense. It's not completed yet, and I went ahead and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. With The Token too, Farron is getting deeper and deeper in a situation that she does not want to be in, but she's put on her big girl panties and is going to stick to it until she has everything the way that she wants taken care of. And this one does leave off on a cliffhanger as well, and I did go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 stars. Falling by E.K. Blair. This is the companion to Fading. I think this is considered book 2, and this is one of my most anticipated reads for the month of December that I didn't read in December, but I did get to in January, and I loved it. It was amazingly satisfying. The story had me crying, laughing, and basically falling in love with these characters all over again. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. Bitten by Kelley Armstrong. This is book 1 in the Women of the Otherworld. This is a reread for me. The reason I went ahead and reread it was because they did go ahead and make this into a TV show on Sci-Fi. I know that they also show it in Canada. I just don't remember the channel. I fell in love with the story like 2 years ago. I wanted to go ahead and reread it to kind of refresh my memory and to also be able to pick out the changes that were made in the show. I wanted to see what they were going to do with these characters, if they were going to follow the same kind of path of the story. And so far, 3 episodes in to the show, I'm really enjoying it. I love what they've done so far, even with the little changes that they've made. What this book is about is Elena. She is the only female werewolf, because in this world, werewolves are only, the genes only pass through the male, like father, son. And there are bitten werewolves, but it's usually guys. Like, women never survive the change that they're aware of. So there's a lot of action, there's suspense, there's lover quarrels, and I love it. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. After reading Bitten, I was still intrigued to continue the story, so I did go ahead and read Stolen, which is book 2. That still follows Elena and her journey with Clay, and I love the action, I love the romance, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and this is also a reread for me in the month of January. Next, I went ahead and picked up The Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead. This is book 1 in the series. This is a reread for me, and it was also one of the choices for my book club in January. The reason why we went ahead and chose it was because the movie is coming out on February the 7th, and I wanted to refresh my memory, so I'm able to go ahead and remember my favorite lines and also try to see the differences between the book and the movie. So that is the main reason why. Second is because I love the series. I would love everybody to read it. There's a lot of action, there's suspense, there's romance, and all-time favorite, one of my all-time favorites, and I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. After reading Vampire Academy, I was so intrigued. I was so in love with the series. Like, if I didn't know what was going to happen again, I had to pick up the next book in the series. So I did go ahead and pick up Frostbite by Richelle Mead. This is book 2. There is a lot of things going on with the Strigoi. There's action, there's the things that we're used to, and this is also our introduction to Adrian Ivashkov, and I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. While I was reading Frostbite, my friend Gabby sent me a message on Goodreads that basically said, stop whatever I was reading and pick up Arsen by Mia Asher. I kind of was like, no, I don't want to, because I was so stuck in the Vampire Academy world that I didn't want to get out of it. But she's never steered me wrong with the recommendation, and if she felt so passionate about it, it intrigued me to go ahead and want to read it. What I went ahead and told her was that once I was done with Frostbite, instead of picking up Shadow Kiss, that I would go ahead and read Arsen, and I don't regret any minute of doing that. It took me on an emotional roller coaster that was filled with, like, lust and hate and frustration and love and heartache. It broke my heart. It broke me and left me in tears. I was so emotionally drained when I finished this story, and I wouldn't want it any other way. It was amazing. It is one of my favorites for 2014. I think that anybody that has not read this book needs to read it. It is amazing, and I thank Gabby a million times over for suggesting this book to me. It was amazing, and I don't regret taking a break from the Vampire Academy world to read this story. And this is one that I will reread again and again. It was amazing. As much as I wanted to strangle Kathy and whatnot, I loved it. I want to do a review for this book. I'm not too sure if I will, but if you guys are interested in wanting to know more about this story, just leave it in the comments down below, and by all means, we can talk about it, or I'll just make a video and you guys can hear me talk about all my emotions that I had in this story. But I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. I moved on to book 3, Shadow Kiss, and this is my favorite in the series. This one always makes me cry, and I was interchanging between reading the book and listening to the audiobook, so I'm happy that the audiobook can make me cry just as much as the book. This one, the stakes are a little higher. Things are getting more intense between Rose and Dimitri. And I'm sorry, I didn't even mention him in book 1, but Dimitri, things get really intense, and I always cry. I always bawl with this book. This is my favorite in the series, and I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I went to Blood Promise, which is book 4 in the series. Here, there's the introduction of Sydney Sage. There is a lot of stuff going on that I don't want to ruin for anybody. I don't agree with all of the choices that she makes, but I love that she is growing. I do love the insight to other characters that I don't want to ruin for anybody, but I loved it. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. Spirit Bound, this is book 5 in the Vampire Academy series, and this one takes me by surprise. When I originally read it, there's some things that I did not remember, because I've only read this the first time it came out. This is the second time I read it, compared to the first 3. I've read those 2 or 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. So this one, there were some things that I did go ahead and forget that happens, but I like the action. I like the surprises. I like the introduction of more characters, and I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously, I did have to go ahead and pick up book 6, which is Last Sacrifice, and this one is a whopper of a book, but I wouldn't want it any other way. I love how this book wraps everything up when it comes to Rose and Dimitri and Lissa and Christian, and I went ahead and gave this some 5 out of 5 stars. I went ahead and picked up Bloodlines by Richelle Mead. This is book 1 in the new series, which follows Sydney Sage, who is our favorite alchemist. And if you guys have read the Vampire Academy series, you know what an alchemist is. If you don't, they are humans that know about the existence of vampires and make sure that other humans don't find out about them. Here we also get our favorite bad boy from Vampire Academy, which is Adrian Ivashkov. We do also have Eddie Castile, which is one of the Dampiers, and Jill Mastrano, which I will not get into too much detail on that because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. This is the second time I read this book. I loved it as much as the first time. Actually, I think I appreciated it more now, and I think being freshly finished with reading Vampire Academy, like going from Last Sacrifice to Bloodlines, just had me eager to get into these stories, to go ahead and learn more about Sydney and some of the secrets that she was having, some of the secrets that she had that Rose kind of wanted to find out but didn't really nudge too much into them, so I was intrigued to find them out here. And I enjoyed it. I loved the action and the suspense and the bantering and the arguments. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. I did go ahead and pick up The Golden Lily. This is book 2 in the Bloodlines. This story still follows Sydney and Adrian, and I love that characters from Vampire Academy come out here. It follows Sydney's struggles with herself, with her identity, with the alchemist way, as well as other things going on with some of the rest of the characters that I don't want to ruin anything. I enjoyed the story a lot. Like, I was like berating myself for taking so long to go ahead and read it. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars. I had to go ahead and pick up book 3, The Indigo Spell, and I love how the characters are growing. Adrian, the way he's growing, and his feelings, and Sydney and her feelings, and the stakes are getting higher and higher, and there's more intrigue and trying to find out what's going on with the alchemist. And I loved the ending so much. I did go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 stars because I loved the ending of book 3. I was in such a hurry to pick up book 4, The Fury Heart, and so far this is my favorite in the series. I know that there's kind of mixed reviews. There's some people that don't like it and some people that do. What I love about The Fury Heart is the emotion. I love that it is in dual perspectives, so it goes back and forth between Adrian and Sydney, versus the other 3 books have always been in Sydney's perspective. So I love the insight of Adrian, the things that he's going through. It makes me appreciate him more as a character. It made me fall for him more. I liked him as a character in the Vampire Academy. I just didn't want him to be with Rose. I'm sorry. I'm all for Rose and Dimitri. So I was kind of, not that I hated him in Vampire Academy, I just wanted him to get away from Rose. But in Bloodlines, I love him as a character, and I love knowing more about him, and at times my heart broke for him. The way this ended, the way it ended had me teary-eyed. Like, it broke my heart, and I need book 5 to come out now. If I would have read this before I did my anticipated books of 2014, book 5 would have been on there. And you guys, if you haven't picked up Bloodlines, you need to pick it up. It is amazing. I just realized that I forgot to mention the 3 novellas that I read. The reason why I'm mentioning them right now was because those 3 novellas take place in the Vampire Academy world. I went ahead and read one of the novellas. It's really short. It's just Dimitri's perspective when he meets Rose for the first time. And I love all things Dimitri, so I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I went ahead and picked up the second novella that is out of the Foretold 14 Stories of Prophecy and Prediction. And in here, there is a story called Homecoming. And this story happens after the last sacrifice, and it follows Rose and Dimitri and a trip to Russia, is all I'm going to go ahead and say. And I loved it. I loved the interaction. I loved the sarcasm. I just all around loved it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next novella that I read was Sunshine, and this comes out of the Kisses from Hell anthology, and this story follows Eric Dragomir, who is Liz's father. It is in a period where he is graduating from high school and trying to decide what he's going to do with his future and who to marry and things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, the kind of love interest, I think, is Liz's mother. I'm not too sure, because I honestly have never read the name of Liz's mom in Vampire Academy that I can remember. So I'm not too sure if that's her or not, but I did enjoy the story, and I love the insight. And I like the little romance. I did go ahead and give it 4 out of 5 stars. The Gameboard of the Gods by Richelle Mead. This is book 1 in the Age of X series. This is her new adult series. I started off reading it and noticing why everybody kept stopping like at page 60 or 80 and not getting past that, because I was having difficulties as well. Like, it's a lot of information. I was like on page like 30 or something, and I was like, what? Because it was like a lot of information, and what I ended up doing was purchasing the audiobook as well. So I was listening to the audiobook and reading the book at the same time. Well, not at the, well, no, yeah, at the same time. There is times where I was so confused of what was going on, because I was kind of getting bored, and then I guess I would kind of zone out. So then I was getting confused. So with the audiobook, at times, I'm not gonna lie, I sat there looking at the page while the audiobook was reading it to me. And I felt weird, but I don't regret it because if you can go ahead and get past page 121, which is chapter 11, like if you get to chapter 11, you're going to get the things that you're used to from Richelle Mead. You're going to get the action and the romance and the sarcasm and the wit and the intrigue that you're used to from her other series. And it's not exactly the same because this is a totally different concept. What I think makes it so hard to read is that she's throwing so much information at the very beginning. Like, you're having to learn all these countries and providences and the way the world works and all this technology and terms. And at one point that's what was confusing me, because I kept talking about something called an ego, and when I think of ego, I think of, somebody's ego, like somebody has a cocky ego, not the way that it was described in this book. I mean, an ego is considered basically like a smartphone that's like a computer or something. It's really weird. But after I got to chapter 11, I enjoyed it. And to me, this is kind of like dystopian with religion mixed in and kind of some of the supernatural. So with this story, I went ahead and gave it 4 out of 5 stars just because it was so difficult to get through the first, 100 pages of it. But I can't wait to pick up book 2. So this is my January wrap-up. These are the 23 books and 4 novellas that I went ahead and read in the month of January, which I feel is so many books once I go ahead and go through this. I think in the month of February, if I see that I'm reading a lot, I think I'm going to do maybe bi-weekly wrap-up so that it's not so much at one time and I can kind of give you guys a little bit more information on the books, or maybe weekly, just depending. I don't think I'm going to read as much in February as I did in January, but we'll go ahead and see. So let me know if you guys have read any of the books that I mentioned down below, or if you guys want any reviews or anything like that, let me know. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!